Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a stack of research today that frankly feels less like a book summary and more like a survival guide for the modern world.
It really does. I mean, this is a topic that hits everyone no matter what you do.
I'm talking about a problem that I think everyone listening has felt. You wake up, grab your phone, and it's just there. A tsunami.
Information deluge, yeah.
Exactly. It's emails, Slack, news alerts, hot takes, reports. It's this wall of noise. And the whole idea behind the book we're covering, The Art of Explanation by Ross Atkins, is that in this environment, just being smart isn't enough.
No, having the data isn't enough either. If you can't cut through all that noise and explain why something matters, you're basically invisible.
And that's his core argument. Explanation isn't a soft skill anymore. It's not a nice to have.
It's a core competency. It's the difference between your project getting funded or, getting ignored. It's your team actually getting the strategy versus just nodding along in a panic.
And for a guide, you really couldn't ask for someone better than Ross Atkins. For anyone who follows the news, especially from the BBC, you know the guy.
Oh, yeah. The guy in front of the giant screen making sense of chaos.
Right. He has these viral explainer videos where he'll take something incredibly messy, like a supply chain crisis, and in, 3 or 4 minutes, he just makes it click.
And it's important to remember, he's not just a presenter, he's a practitioner. He started the BBC's 50.50 project to improve gender representation.
So he's had to change the communication culture of a huge organization. He's not just talking about talking well.
Exactly. He's talking about how information actually moves through systems.
So our mission today is to sort of reverse engineer his process. We're going to decode his 7-step explanation system.
Well, not just for a prepared speech, but for when you're put on the spot.
Oh yeah, the dynamic explanation. That's what I'm here for. But before we get to the how, we have to talk about the main villain here. Atkins calls it the curse of knowledge.
And once you hear this concept, you will see it absolutely everywhere.
Tell us what it is.
The curse of knowledge is simply this. Once you know something, it's almost impossible to remember what it felt like not to know it.
It's an empathy gap, really.
Precisely. You assume everyone has your context, your acronyms, your background on the project. You think you're being efficient, but you're actually speaking a different language.
It reminds me of trying to teach my dad how to use a new app. I'm like, just tap the hamburger menu. And he looks at me like I've lost my mind.
That's it. That's the curse in action. To you, hamburger menu is basic. To him, it's jargon. Atkins says you have to actively fight that assumption. You have to get out of your own head.
Okay, so let's get into the system he built to do just that. 7 steps. And what's wild is that the first 4 steps happen before you say a single word.
It's that iceberg principle, isn't it? The delivery is just the tiny bit you see on top. All the real work is underneath.
So, step 1, setup. This is the one I think we all skip. We're in a rush. We just start talking.
We do. But the setup is about pausing to ask 3 questions. Who am I explaining this to? What do they need from this? And maybe, how do they prefer to get information?
The book uses a great example of a mixed meeting room. This happens all the time.
Right. So you're in there with your engineers who want all the technical details, but the marketing lead is also there.
Yeah.
And they just need to know if the launch date's going to stick.
And if you start with the deep technical jargon,
you've lost marketing in 10 seconds. And if you start with just the high-level marketing stuff, the engineers tune out.
So the setup is that moment where you find the bridge.
Yeah, you find the hook for everyone. You might say, we have a technical bottleneck that's putting our timeline at risk. Boom. You've connected the code to the calendar. Now everyone's listening.
Okay, that makes sense. Step 2, find the information.
This is the gathering phase. And his advice here is a little counterintuitive. He says, don't filter anything yet.
Really? But shouldn't we be efficient?
The risk is that you filter too early based on your own biases. You might miss something crucial. He says to just get everything. The reports, the raw data, the emails, even the conflicting opinions. Just dump it all out.
It feels messy.
It's supposed to, because you can't see the full story until you have all the pieces in front of you.
Which brings us to step 3. Distill the information. This is where you get ruthless.
Yes. This is probably the hardest part. And he has a technique for it called the 2 sweeps.
Okay, I like a good framework. Walk us through it.
So sweep 1 is all about relevance. You look at every piece of info and ask, does this directly serve the purpose I defined back in step 1?
And if it's just interesting, but not essential?
It's gone. No matter how much you love that little factoid, you have to cut it.
Ouch. Okay, what's sweep 2?
Sweep 2 is for simplification. You take what's left and ask, can I say this more simply? Can that whole paragraph be a single sentence? Can that complex data table be one key percentage?
So this is where we observed a significant quarter-over-quarter uptick becomes sales are up.
Exactly. You're not dumbing it down. You're cleaning it up. You're making it easier for the listener's brain to process.
Okay, so we've distilled. We have our core facts. Step 4, organize the information.
This is about turning that list of facts into a story. Our brains don't remember lists well, but we remember stories.
So it's not, here's fact A, then fact B, then fact C.
No. It should be, fact A created a problem, which led us to fact B, and because of that, we now have to decide on C. There's a flow. A narrative only works one way.
That's a great test. If you can shuffle your presentation slides and it doesn't matter, you don't have a story.
You don't have a narrative arc at all. You just have a list.
So that's all the prep. Now we get to the part people see. Step 5 is link the information.
Yeah, this is all about smoothing out the seams. You know when you're watching a speaker and they say something like, okay, so that's that. Now moving on to our next topic.
It's so clunky. It just breaks the spell.
Totally. So step 5 is about finding those bridging phrases. So instead of that, you'd say, because of that success in sales, we now face a new challenge, which brings me to our next point.
You're guiding them. You're not making them jump from one idea to the next.
You're keeping them in the flow with you.
Then we have step 6, tighten. This sounds a bit like step 3 again. How is it different from distilling?
It's a different kind of editing. Step 3 was about the content, the facts. Step 6 is about the language, the style. This is where you hunt down and kill all the filler words.
The ums, the ummas, the you-knows, the sort of...
All of them. And redundancies, too, like saying future plans. I mean, all plans are for the future. Just say plans.
Yeah.
It's that kind of tightening that makes you sound crisp and confident.
And that leads right into the final one, step 7, delivery.
Right. And for this, he has a metaphor that I think is maybe the most useful thing in the entire book. He calls it cleaning the window.
I loved this. Break it down for us.
Okay, so imagine you're looking out a window at a beautiful landscape. If the window is dirty, if it's got smudges and cracks, you stop looking at the landscape.
And you start looking at the dirty window.
Exactly. In this metaphor, your explanation is the window. Your idea is the landscape. If your explanation is full of jargon and stumbles and bad structure, that's a dirty window. The audience gets stuck on your words instead of your idea.
They're focused on you, not on what you're trying to show them.
Right. A perfect explanation is an invisible window. The goal is for them to walk away thinking, wow, I finally understand that, not, wow, you're a good speaker.
The goal is invisibility. I love that.
Get out of the way of your own information.
Okay, so that's the 7-step system for when you have time to prepare. But I can hear people shouting at their speakers right now, like, great, but what about when I get ambushed in a meeting?
The ambush. Yes. The dynamic explanation.
How do you do all this when you have like 3 seconds to think?
Well, Atkins says you don't throw the system out, you have to internalize it so it becomes instinct. It's like practicing a skill slowly so you can do it fast under pressure.
So you're running through all 7 steps in your head just in hyperspeed.
Kind of. You're quickly thinking, who is this? Setup. What's the one thing they need to know? Distill. How do I frame it? Organize. But he gives a couple of specific memory tricks to help when your brain is in panic mode.
Because your fight or flight brain is not great at complex thought.
It's terrible at it. So the first technique is chunking.
What's that?
Instead of trying to remember, say, 10 separate data points, you group them into maybe 3 chunks or themes. So instead of 10 reasons sales are down, you remember 3 buckets: market conditions, product issues, and competitor actions.
The brain can handle 3 things, even when it's stressed.
Exactly. And once you say market conditions, the specific points will usually come back to you. Gives your brain a structure to hang on to.
The book also mentions memory palaces, which sounds very grand.
It sounds complicated, but it's really just a visualization trick. You mentally place your chunks of information in a physical space you know really well, like your kitchen.
So market conditions is on the refrigerator, product issues is on the stove.
Yes. And when you get the question and your mind goes blank, you just mentally look at the fridge. It anchors the abstract idea to something concrete. It really works.
I like that. But what about when you get a question you truly don't want to answer or one that's way off topic? He talks about having escape phrases.
Oh, these are a lifesaver. Everyone needs a few of these in their back pocket.
So what is an escape phrase?
It's a pre-planned sentence to get you out of a jam. Someone asks a question you can't answer, and instead of just freezing up.
Which is what most of us do.
Right. You deploy the phrase, something like, "That's an interesting point, but for the sake of time, I want to keep us focused on the main issue." Or, I don't have that specific number with me, but what I can tell you is the overall trend is.
So you acknowledge your question, but you pivot right back to your prepared chunks.
It keeps you in control of the conversation. It's not about being evasive. It's about steering.
And all of this, the chunking, the escape phrases, it all feeds into the last part of this, which is composure.
He's really clear on this. Stress makes us communicate poorly. Preparation isn't just about knowing the information. It's about lowering your own anxiety.
Because if you know you have an escape phrase ready to go, you're less afraid of that tough question coming.
Exactly. And that calmness is what makes you look and feel authoritative, even if you're nervous inside.
Okay, let's zoom out. In Chapter 3, he gives this checklist, the anatomy of a good explanation. It's got 10 things, but let's just pull out the most important ones.
Well, the obvious one is simplicity, but the one that surprised me, and I think is more important, is complexity.
Wait, complexity? I thought the whole point was to simplify.
But this is the nuance. He warns against oversimplifying. If you make something so simple that it's no longer accurate, you haven't explained it. You've misrepresented it.
Right. You've flattened it so much that the truth is gone.
Exactly. He says you have to identify the essential complexity, the nuance that has to be there for it to make sense. You don't remove it. You just explain that complex part simply.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance. What about context?
Context is everything. A number without context is meaningless. Saying we made $5 million in revenue means nothing. Is that good? Is it bad? You have to give the context. We made $5 million, which is up 20% from last year despite a down market. Now it means something.
And the last one I want to touch on is engagement.
This is the human touch. Yeah. The best explanations, he says, feel like a conversation, not a broadcast. If someone feels you are talking to them, they're far more likely to pay attention.
That's why we always say you when we're talking to the listener.
Exactly. It brings them in. It closes that distance.
Now, we always like to bring in a counterpoint on the deep dive. This is a very structured, almost methodical system. Is there a danger of being too prepared, too polished?
It's a really good question. The notes mention Judith E. Glazer's work on conversational intelligence, and she would argue that sometimes trust is built in the messy, unscripted moments.
The vulnerability, the spontaneity of a real conversation.
Right. If you're too perfect, too clean window, you can come off as robotic or worse, like a politician who's hiding something.
So if I use an escape phrase every single time you ask me a hard question,
you're going to stop trusting me fast. The system should be the skeleton that holds you up, not a suit of armor that keeps everyone out.
So the structure is there to give you the confidence to be authentic.
That's the perfect way to put it, yes.
So bringing this all home, if there is one big idea, one thing to take away from the art of explanation, what is it?
For me, it's this one line from the book. To communicate clearly, we must think clearly.
Unpack that for us.
We often think that explaining is a speech problem, like, oh, I couldn't find the right words. But Atkins argues it's actually a thinking problem. The act of trying to explain something simply is a forcing function for your own understanding.
So when I'm rambling on in a meeting, it's not because I'm a bad speaker. It's because my own thoughts on the topic are still a mess.
Precisely. That whole 7-step process, it's not just for making a presentation. It's the act of clarifying your own thoughts. By the time you're done, you understand it better, not just your audience.
That's a mic drop moment right there. Explanation is really a tool for yourself.
It's the ultimate tool for clarity.
Well, here's a provocative thought to leave you with, and it might be a little uncomfortable. Think about your job, or maybe a passion you have. If you had to explain it to a total stranger in, say, 3 sentences with no jargon, could you?
That really is the test, isn't it?
Or would you stumble? Because if you can't explain it simply, do you really understand it as well as you think you do?
Something to think about on the drive home.
Definitely. Look, if this deep dive helped clean the window on this topic for you, do us a quick favor, like, share, and subscribe. It genuinely helps us keep the show going.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.